Good evening, everybody. Matt Geary here for the Geek Pride cast on this Monday evening. It's on Monday because I think my missus would have murdered me had I had our podcast last night. So we decided to get drunk on alcohol and eat chocolate cake instead. So my apologies. With me today, we have another guest, but as always, we have some usual faces. We have Mark Canty.
Evening all.
Peter Ray Allison.
Good evening.
Jonjo Cosgrove.
Hello, everybody.
And our special guest, Laura Mauro. Is that how I pronounced it? Is that right?
That's right, yeah.
Yeah, okay. So I'm always like, oh no, I'm going to get this name wrong. It's like we've got a Romanian girl, Cristina, who does some stuff for us, and I just can't pronounce her second name right, and she's always shouting at me. I'm just like, I'm sorry, I can't get it right.
She's just doing that because it's you, Matt. You realise this, don't you?
Yeah, possibly.
Do the pronunciation.
I sent her a book to do a review for it, and it's never turned up. It slightly annoyed me. Anyway.
Go back.
Yeah. Laura, who are you? What do you do? Tell us about
Who
yourself.
am I? That's a very good question. I am a sometime writer, PhD student, and that's what I do. I do writing mostly. I write horror and weird fiction. Sometimes I write about wrestling. Not so much at the moment because there isn't any wrestling really, but that's what I do mostly.
Local scene wrestling or sort of mainstream WWE? So
I used to watch a lot of
wrestling
and Japanese wrestling are the two things I watch most of.
What's Japanese wrestling like, and how does it compare to like the WCW and WWE wrestling?
It's kind of less in your face. Like the storytelling in Japanese wrestling is a lot more subtle. It's done kind of in the ring, or via kind of like backstage things, but after the fact. Whereas, obviously you've got like WCW and WWE, you've got these kind of, you have a bit of wrestling and then you have the soap opera, and then you have a bit more wrestling, you have a bit more soap opera. The Japanese wrestling's a lot more like, I guess, I hesitate to say it's more like a sport because obviously it isn't. It's still theatre, but it's presented more like a sport. You know what I mean? You've got matches. And any story that's told is told in the ring. It's just, I don't know, I just think it's, and I think the actual style of it is better as well. But I did grow up with the American wrestling. I do have a fondness for it in my heart.
Just before we carry on there, have you got anything downloading in the background in your computer? You're stuttering slightly.
I am not, but I think my husband is streaming games, so I will tell him to stop.
He's streaming the Japanese wrestling. That's what it is.
It's just like you're saying something and you're zoning out, and it's just like we're not getting anything.
Yeah.
Okay, let me just tell him to be. Carry on.
Do you know,
Request for bandwidth.
Do you remember a little while ago I was watching some of the because obviously WWE continued for a while COVID was going on. They were kind of putting their own bubble. And there was this shot of Stone Cold Steve Austin. He's in the ring. He's going, "Can I get a hell yeah?" And it's like the place is just empty.
It's so funny.
Can I get a hell? And it's like he's trying to make it obviously serious. He's trying to obviously do this part as an actor, but at the same time, I was thinking, just go, just walk out of the place, please. This is cringy.
Oh, man.
I couldn't turn away from it. It was amazing. And when you see like the interactions that they're having, they're trying to obviously get this non-existent crowd. At least like when you got football on, they're putting on this imaginary chant. They're putting on the audio effects. It sounds like there's someone there
on the standees on the seats. Yeah.
Oh, that as well. Yeah.
Well, the Queen's at Millwall now. There's a cardboard cutout of the Queen at Millwall. No, it's with wrestling. You need a crowd. It has to be a two-way process. It just doesn't work, because it's theatre. It is. Yeah. I always think of it as being in between sport and theatre, and just like both of those things, you need audience participation. You can't just have it in isolation. I think that's why a lot of wrestling fans have kind of moved away from it. Partly because independent stuff isn't really happening, and a lot of us like that. But even things that are still going, it's just not the same. The atmosphere isn't there. You need the kind of call and response kind of thing,
How is Japanese wrestling sumo, or is that something else entirely different?
It's totally different. Yeah, right. Sumo is like, traditional Japanese culture. Wrestling is just exactly. I mean, in terms of
Yeah,
you know,
she's
the
probably-
murder gymnastics, as we call it sometimes. But yeah, it's different to sumo. But I just think it's better. But I might be being a snob.
Joey, I'll have to have a look up about Japanese wrestling, because I heard there was something before, but I just assumed it was kind of like, I don't know, like a rip of WCW or something like that. I didn't realise that it was its own thing. But then I don't know why, I have this feeling that I've seen an anime before of like a wrestling show. I don't know if that's true or not. It might be.
That is.
I'm sure there is an anime. Isn't
Yeah,
there?
yeah, there is. A Tiger
remember
Mask, it's
seeing
called.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember seeing that before, and I loved that. I thought
That's It's got
so
real wrestlers in it as well.
Yeah, it was so fun. It was so imaginative. And, you know, obviously, if you look at anime, there's anime on almost anything there. But seeing the wrestling one in particular, I was like, yeah, this looks pretty immense, pretty unreal. But to actually hear there is Japanese wrestling its own called, that's on the list tomorrow.
If you want any recommendations, I will recommend. It's the crossover between Japanese wrestling and anime. There is quite a lot of crossover in there. Because also the anime that you're talking about has real Japanese wrestlers in it. It's called Tiger Mask, and there is a Japanese wrestler called Tiger Mask himself. So it's like a weird fourth wall.
Yeah, it was one of the things, you know, when you hear about it, you think there must be something about it. It must be real. And but then I was watching recently, going like with the anime. There's a football one called Captain Tsubasa.
Yeah,
something like that. But it's like football mixed with Dragon Ball Z, and it is awesome. It's just, and you know, in the last year, while we've obviously had lockdown after lockdown, you get to see all these different shows that you may not have watched before. Captain Tsubasa was one of them ones that I was like, right, let's just watch one episode, and I was like, yeah, I'm hooked now. This is
12 hours later.
Good. Yeah, it was like that. It was like that. I watched it for the whole day, and I was just like, I can't wait to see some more.
I've not watched wrestling. I used to watch it religiously when I was a kid, you know, but like it was back in the day. It was like Hulk Hogan and the Ultimate Warrior, and Bret the Hitman Hart was my favorite wrestler for like ages.
Yeah.
Where I went to see him in Belfast Ulster Hall, I think, or was it the King's Hall, Ulster Hall, I think. And I was that close to getting his sunglasses. I was like beside this kid who got it, and I was just like, no. And yeah, he fought Vader, I think, when he was doing it at Belfast. It was the same day John Candy died. I just remember it. You know, it was just odd. It was like we went to see the wrestling, and it came up on the radio that John Candy had died. But yeah, I used to watch it quite a lot, and then I just stopped. Recently, because one of the guys in one of our WhatsApp groups is massively into his wrestling, he sort of started going on about Beyond the Mat, the documentaries and stuff. So I started watching the documentaries. And oh my god, man! Like all of these wrestlers are absolute shells of men. Like they are completely wrecked. You know, physically, mentally, all kinds of crazy shits happen to them, and it's just like wrestling is just not good for these people at all.
They basically beat themselves until they can't be beaten anymore. They pin them back together and fill them up with drugs, and then pile them out until they just can't anymore.
Yeah, like
so they just roll in the next.
I remember watching that, like that supposedly that grand battle between Undertaker and someone else. That I can't remember who it was.
Very specific there.
It was Undertaker. It was basically a comeback by the Undertaker and another one of his greatest foes.
Kane, probably.
And I remember sitting at the end and just thinking, they just looked as if they couldn't care.
Yeah.
Well, Undertaker, when he in his mid-50s, when he finally retired.
Yeah.
And they keep wheeling him out. Like every now and again, they wheel him out for a special appearance, and he's the thing. I think wrestling's got better than it used to be. It used to be like, you know, because it was a very kind of macho environment. You got a lot of these guys who were going way past their prime, and as you said, they were just stapled together and on painkillers, and it was a terrible. There's still problems with healthcare, because the thing is, of course, and you've got the healthcare situation in America as well, and it's very difficult unless you're mega bucks to kind of keep in good condition, but it is improved. Issues are, you know, it is, I don't know, it's a problematic industry for a lot of reasons.
Yeah,
but even if you look, I was going to say, just some of the like older wrestlers, so like even like Stone Cold Steve Austin, he had to retire apparently because of problems with his back. And
He
then like a
broke
couple of
his
years
neck.
later, but then a couple of years later, he was back in it. I think wasn't there something about Mick Foley as well? He'd had a
I mean,
broken
He's
back
had
or
everything, Mick Foley.
Yeah.
He's
Mick
broken
Foley.
everything there is to break.
He came to the ill-fated Blackpool Comic-Con, and we helped him basically, and some of the other wrestlers, like the guy Diesel. I can't remember his real name, but Diesel and what's the guy? It's gonna. I can't remember. There's a bunch of them, and we were basically, to just sort of help out because the whole thing was going to hell in a handbasket. So we thought, right, we'll step up. Geek Pride will help out, and we sort of like we're helping them sort of getting from one place to another and getting shouted at for it, right? Other people and stuff. But it's like we don't work here. We're just helping. But there you go. So we were trying to help him. Mick Foley, man, it was just like he could barely walk. He was literally, lovely guy, but he could barely walk, and he was just sort of, good thing about him was he spent a lot of time with his fans, and he was very important about trying to get there, despite everything going to shit. He was sort of like, I want to get there, I want to sort of, talk to the fans and stuff, but he could barely walk. Like, you literally were at a snail's pace to sort of get him from one place to another, and it's just, I see that sort of beyond the mat thing, and you see what's done to a lot of the wrestlers, and you're just like, fuck me, man, it's just absolutely insane.
There's a physio, Bo Hightower or something. He does videos on YouTube and Facebook where he does like the back cracking or that sort of thing. But there's a couple he's put up with some of the wrestlers where he does a thing where he has like they're almost like cold chisels that he uses like on their hips and their shoulders and stuff, because obviously there's so much muscle when it all gets out of alignment. He basically sits there with a hammer and beats things into place, and it's quite scary. Or like he'll lay them down and he'll check their feet, and like their hips are so misaligned that one foot is like an inch and a half higher than the other. And so he'll pull them and he'll go up to the top of the hip with this lump of metal like that and a hammer, and he'll wedge it in the top, and he'll go like that about 4 or 5 times. Then he'll go and he'll like jerk the leg, and he'll go no, he'll go back again, or right up in the deltoid, trying to sort their shoulders out, because like they won't be able to get their arms any higher than that, because like they've strained and twist stuff, or one shoulder's like there, and he's just trying to pop them and crunch them, and oh god, the noises, and you're like, this is what they've done to themselves.
Yeah, well, it's amazing because we think of wrestling as being fake, don't we? Like everyone talks about how wrestling is fake all the time, and it's obviously not fake. Like I've seen a wrestler break his neck in the ring. When I was watching Japanese wrestling, I watched Hiromu Takahashi literally break his neck. And the amazing thing, he's back a year later. He's back now. He broke his neck and he's back a year later. I'm just like,
I think it's like there's a misconception, isn't there? It's like the matches are predestined, but the physicality of it all is very real.
It's scripted, but it's not fake.
Yeah, it's scripted, but it's not.
I spoke with a friend who's really into it. It's pseudo improv, isn't it? Because you know the end you need to achieve, but the moment you've got 2 people in there doing stuff, all it takes is for someone to be a quarter of an inch off their mark, and everything can go to hell in a hurry. So everyone has to be on their game, because they know this is what's supposed to happen, but it doesn't always work that way, does it? Just because you have a bad day, your leg gives at the wrong time or something like that, and they all have to be aware of that. And when they start swinging around freaking chairs and tables and
but
other
when
props,
when you have them like they're throwing, like one of them's throwing the other out of the ring, that's a bit hard to try and fake.
Yeah, you can't.
When you see them like punch them, you see that they're stamping on the floor to get that sound effect. Okay, you can tell that. But when you've actually got them, like they're literally like throwing them up, over, and back, and they're landing, and you hear that smack on the canvas. That is not fake, ladies and gentlemen.
There are things they can do though to kind of minimise the impact on themselves.
Oh, definitely.
Basically, like
take the impact.
Like the old paratrooper techniques.
Basically slam that hand down, that dissipates some of the force away. But
when they lob them out the ring, a lot of the times you'll find they hit tables that happen to be there for the announcers or something, and a lot of the time those tables are padded underneath things, because it's there to dissipate the fall.
But still, there is Yeah, I mean, all you have to do is like watch a Jackie Chan film at the end and see all the outtakes of the stunts of where they go wrong. This is the guy that has broken all the bones in his body at least twice,
And
you can
kept
still-
going as well. The infamous painted cast on his foot when he was doing
for
the jump on the hovercraft.
Rumbling the Bronx.
Yeah.
Mm.
Broken hands, broken necks, everything. Oh,
there you go.
remember I said I had a
There's
guest star? This is talent.
Oh, there we
Yeah,
go.
yeah. I remember watching wrestling in the late '90s, and there was Booker T, and it seemed to be doing like capoeira.
Booker T, that was the guy. That's the other guy.
Oh, Booker T.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
There was loads of them. They're just like
Legend.
Yeah, and like it's like I remember watching a few times. Like, I'm really into my martial arts, it's like kung fu and taekwondo and all that. And I think not all of them are just pure wrestlers. 'Cause there's quite a bit of like mixing up. Like for example, I was quite a few. I've never had this confirmed, but Booker T was almost doing capoeira just in the moves he was doing, how he was moving his body.
Yeah, but also when you look, one of his most famous moves is basically breakdance. It's like a spinning kick where he's breakdancing. So I wouldn't be surprised. I don't know about him specifically, but I know that there are a lot of wrestlers who have got martial arts backgrounds. Like for example, Aleister Black, who's really big in WWE at the moment. He's a professional kickboxer.
Yeah.
And actually he was a kickboxer before he was a wrestler. So there's a lot of that in wrestling, particularly now MMA is so big. You get a lot of
No, I think she's frozen.
Oh, no.
No, you're back.
I'm back.
You're back.
Yeah, you're saying that the MMA ones, obviously, you've had a lot of crossover. Ronda Rousey, I think, has been one of the most prominent ones because she's obviously done a lot of WWE recently. Even like getting actors. I mean, you've had Stephen Amell, who plays Oliver Queen in Arrow. He's done WWE loads of times. He's guest starred on that.
Donald Trump's been on WWE.
Yeah,
not
but
their finest
unfortunately, he
moment.
came out of that one unscathed.
Yeah, I was going to say, they didn't throw him hard enough
yeah.
at anything.
Yeah, it's just like the thing is, you get some of them, like some people, like when you're a kid, you think it's real. The whole and obviously we understand, but you think the whole thing's real. You know, there's no sort of. It's like there's things that are real, Santa Claus and wrestling and stuff like that.
What do you mean Santa Claus isn't real?
He's very real.
Yes.
If you're up this late, you deserve that bomb right there. if you're up this late, listening to this?
I'll point you to what the Simpsons said. I'll point you to what the Simpsons said. There's only one fat guy that brings us presents. His name ain't Santa.
Listen, if Big Boss from Metal Gear Solid can believe in Santa, then so can we.
Yeah.
Oh yes, Metal Gear Solid. I love that game.
But you got like again, it was from one of the documentaries, and it's like I think it was about Macho Man and his sort of relationship with Elizabeth, and it was like people, even her family, thought it was real, and that the whole thing was real. And so when they broke up and all this other stuff happened, they were like getting really fucked off with Macho Man because it was like they thought the whole thing was sort of real. And a lot of the sort of especially in the deep south, wrestling is real. There's no telling them any different. It's a thing, and the storylines are just shit that's happening. And,
you remember World of Sport wrestling in the UK when you had the old ladies hitting wrestlers with their handbags?
Yeah.
That was a thing.
Oh man, giant haystacks and
giant haystacks.
Yeah.
Oh, giant haystacks getting all the abuse he got. Yeah.
Oh, classic.
Was it one of them?
I mean, that was some of my earliest memories of wrestling. Was
One
that
of them
on
killed somebody?
reruns of that on Eurosport?
Kendo Nagasaki.
Yes.
Didn't one of them kill somebody? Did Big Daddy or Giant Haystacks kill somebody? Something happened. I'm not sure if it was intentional, but
wasn't there? I think there was something about giant haystacks, but
yeah,
I don't recall it off the top of my head. But then there was a few stories about this though, weren't there? There was, I mean, especially in like more recent years, especially was it the whole thing with Chris Benoit as well? That was that was horrible. That side of things, and even. It's one of them things that people will always say, "Oh, it's such a tragedy what happened to him," and then like obviously there's a way that you can go, well, actually, yeah, maybe his mental state didn't help, and what he was, and going back to what you said, what some of these people put themselves through to go out and do a performance, all the drugs they must be taking, everything to just to get themselves through the day, and then one day he just snapped, and then it was
with Chris Benoit, it was a combination of the fact that he was on industrial quantities of steroids, but also when they did a post-mortem of his brain, he'd taken so many concussions that his brain looked like he'd been in several car crashes.
All right.
And basically they said it was a form of dementia, really. It's likely that a combination of the brain damage and the steroids was what caused him to snap the way he did. So as I say, there's a lot of problems inherent in a sport where, concussions happen all the time. They're one of the most common injuries that wrestlers attain are concussions, and I've seen several wrestlers retire because of it. So, similar to American football, isn't it, where you've got the whole kind of thing about repeated head trauma.
Well, that's the thing is they sort of go into each other because they've got padding, so they think they can sort of go in harder, and obviously they go and spear tackles is,
but the thing is, going shoulder to shoulder is one thing in American football. When you have someone that are going head on,
spear tackle. I think spear tackles are legal. I don't think they're I think you're allowed to.
That's the point. You're able to do a shoulder tackle because that's obviously the point. You're supposed to encourage to do that, but you're supposed to go into the side of someone. And you see some people literally do it, but they're going they're jumping up and going head first into them. It's like, no, don't fucking idiot. Why?
Yeah,
it's horrifying, some of the things.
But then, what is it? You see some people have sporting injuries over some silly things. There was, I can't remember what country it was, but there was some tennis tournament, and there was a guy who literally slipped over because he trod on his tennis ball, fell over, and broke 4 fingers on his hand, and he was out of commission for about 4 months.
That sounds like something that happened to me.
Literally,
this never happens in sports anime. Sports anime, they never break their fingers. They are always successful.
Yeah.
Captain Sebastian would never break his fingers that way.
Oh, no, but they just power up through pain.
Unless it was needed for a dramatic device.
Yes, that's true.
Is sports anime a big thing in?
It is a massive thing. Any sport you can imagine, there is an anime of it. You've got Captain Sebastian for football. You've got Yowamushi Pedal, which is competitive cycling. There's ping pong. Haikyuu is volleyball. Free is competitive swimming. There's literally any sport you can imagine. There's an anime about it.
Anime is crazy, man.
The ping pong one is really good.
They have competitive chess.
Literally, for a whole minute, you've got one of them literally going, and it's like, you just see the ball goes halfway across the stadium. It's like, it's so fun. It's so over the top.
It is.
And it's like, right, next time.
Next time on ping pong.
I don't know what it is. I just can't seem to get into anime and stuff. I appreciate that a lot of the stuff we grew up on,
was anime. Battle of the Planets.
And Transfer is technically anime, but it's the dubbed over stuff that's the import from Japan.
I never watched the dubs. Always watch the subs. I don't like sports anime very much, but I love anime in general.
Yeah.
Unless it's exceptional, always watch the subs because the English dubs are terrible for some reason.
It's just
my introduction to anime was on Channel 4 late at night on a Friday, where you get basically a chopped up version of Akira.
Yes.
And which at the best of times makes you have to really
it
follow.
does make sense.
And then when it's been chopped up with ad breaks and censors chopping bits out, you have no clue what's going on, but you don't care because it just looks amazing.
But years ago, you used to have a lot of these companies that would do one dub of an anime, and then a few years later they'd re-release it, but they'd redo the whole soundtrack, and they'd edit some of the video, they'd then rewrite the scripts as well for the English version, and then what you thought you sort of understood, you see it a few years later, you're like, what's this?
Different story, yeah. There are a couple of good dubs, but for the most part, they're pretty dodgy.
Yeah, I remember watching Cyber City Oedo 808, and I loved that. It was really badly dubbed, but that was almost part of the charm of it.
A bit like when you used to watch Transformers in the 80s, the dubbing on that was everything on I love Transformers, but it was appalling. Yeah. The continuity was appalling, the story was appalling, the dubbing was terrible, but it was still so good.
But it still looks so cool.
I loved it. Yeah, my husband is a massive Transformers nerd. He's got hundreds and hundreds of Transformers figures.
Nice.
A whole cabinet of them.
Nice.
I'm a moderate Transformers nerd.
Have you read
the
IDW comics, More Than Meets the Eye?
I need to get caught up on that. I've got them somewhere.
So good. I wasn't a huge Transformers nerd. Comics, and he said, "Read this," and I was like, it's Transformers, Rob. Am I really going to enjoy this? He said, just trust me, read it. Oh, I've never been so emotionally involved in the lives of giant robots.
Have you watched
So
the Netflix
good.
ones? Have you watched
Sorry?
the new Netflix ones?
No, I haven't. Is that worth watching?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
They've got the advantage. There's still the third one to come, which is supposed to be like next year.
Yeah.
But they've done in 3 series. They're covering everything, including Beast Wars. But because they're doing it all in one go, they're trying to stitch it all together, and it's actually pretty well done.
Okay.
And the animation is really nice. And they've actually tried to make sense of it in certain ways. Whereas
Good
before
luck.
it was just kind of, they just took whatever the Japanese were doing,
Yeah.
jiggled it around a little bit, threw a bunch of script writers at it, and then said, "That'll do."
Yeah.
Oh god.
I'll check it out if it's good then. I was eyeing it up and I was like, is it going to be?
So you talked about like censors on Channel 4, Pete, but me and my mate Russell were talking about this in one of our WhatsApp groups, and it's like, you know, back in the day, especially in like the 80s and stuff, you couldn't watch anything without there being a bad dub over it, you know.
The infamous RoboCop.
Yeah, sort of
infamous
forget
RoboCop
me
stuff.
and sort of, you know, stuff. They just sort of like they put in the most ridiculous things, you know, to get a swear word out of the way and stuff. But then they would show kids things like Never Ending Story and Watership Down and go, all right,
Yes.
you don't want bad words. We don't want fucks and shits and stuff like that. But it's okay
tear your soul out.
to see rabbits
Genocide.
fight to the death, basically, with blood and gore and all kinds of crazy shit, and horses dying in the most horrible way. And you're just
All
like,
was fine, but no F words and no shooting in the dick.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's just
It's
like,
the thing with morality, though. I mean, I remember somebody telling me recently that in America, the easiest way to get an 18 rating is to put swear words in.
Yeah.
That violence is fine and guns are fine and moderate sex is fine, but don't say the F word. I'm just like,
They're
what?
weirdly Puritan
Really?
over there, though.
Yeah.
They're very odd about how they Puritanize things.
Do you remember the weird rule that came into a lot of films a few years ago, where they said that, you know, you can have certain limitations to get a 12A/PG-13 rating. You have to keep to so many boundaries. So you can have so much violence, but you can only have like one shot of blood. You can have swearing, but you can't say the F word more than one time. If you say it once, you get away with it. After that, you have no chance. And that was what they done in the X-Men films. Yeah.
Yeah, the X-Men joke was that they were saving up the fuck for Logan,
X-Men
and just
plus
he opens his mouth, Deadpool jumps out and goes "fuck" and runs away.
It was just that bit when he just goes like they're going to the bar in X-Men First Class, and Wolverine just goes, "Go fuck yourselves." It's just like, that's it. That's all you need. And he's like, "Yeah, we're done."
Sometimes
but
they're
it was.
more.
And then
that's one of my
Farscape came along and replaced all the F-bombs with the word Frel.
Yes.
and
And
then
you
you
go
had,
Frel
and then
and frack, and just realised,
yeah.
yeah, and just realised they were just dropping all the F-bombs, exact same context, exact same emotion.
Yeah,
but
if you're
it
not
was-
saying that word.
Exactly.
Clever.
Or the Firefly cheat, where they all swore, but they did it all in Chinese.
Mm.
So the censors
Or
couldn't
another-
understand it.
Or another example, Red Dwarf. Because what did they say? They
Oh,
called
Smeg.
everyone a smeghead.
Except that Smeg is a genuine and a very unpleasant thing.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
I don't know if they knew
It
that
was-
when they chose
I
that
think it was
word.
just not on the list, was it? They
Yeah.
had to pick something horrible that wasn't on the list,
Yeah.
so they could get away with it when they were sitting there with their clipboards.
You are schmeaghead. No,
Smeaghead.
Say it! I can't, sir.
33 years today.
Oh god.
Oh, I so love Red Dwarf. Every opportunity I get to watch it, you know, I will happily sit down, go for it all. Every now and again, I do end up calling someone a snakehead as well, and it's quite fun when I say that to someone, especially like if I say it to someone who's a bit younger than me, like a nephew or something. They go, "What's that?" And I have to go, "Oh boy, this is I don't know if I can really explain it or not."
Just
I
give,
love
just
this-
give them the
I-
DVDs.
Yeah. I love the fact that I got my elderly mother-in-law watching Red Dwarf, and she really likes it to the
Brilliant.
point where she'll, as soon as I get a new DVD of Red Dwarf for my birthday and
Borrows
Christmas,
it.
she immediately borrows it after I've watched it.
That's superb.
I just like,
One of my friends is a real Red Dwarf fan, and she was joking the other day that the problem is that the guy she's seeing has never watched Red Dwarf. He's originally South African, but he's really into Lord of the Rings. So he keeps on telling her if she'll watch the Lord of the Rings with him, he'll watch Red Dwarf. She's like, I don't know, I can do it. I said, yeah, but the Lord of the Rings is like, what, 12 hours for the extended version? Just how many episodes of Red Dwarf had there been? You're kind of winning by attrition here. She went, that's a very good point.
Yeah, but every episode's like half an hour, so it's like not that long.
Yeah, but if you make him listen, if you make him watch all of them back to back,
Fair point.
that's a couple of weeks off work.
Yeah, I think Red Dwarf is about 80 episodes.
Depends how many series you count as well.
All of them.
Yeah, it's true.
I don't like the Dave one. When I watched the Dave one, I was just like, "What the fuck is this, man?" I went
off it on the Dave ones.
They're more mixed, but there are a lot of good ones. I mean, one of the favourite Dave ones has to be when they go back in time and to the round 20 AD.
Lemons.
That's the one. And yeah, that is just a classic bit of just comic timing.
They have made some very good episodes on Dave. There are some that are a little bit hatchy, a little bit
no
nonsense.
laughter track on the Dave ones.
Only on the Back to Earth special.
Yeah.
Only on Back to Earth one. All the others, they are filmed before an audience. Especially last year, you had The Promised Land, which was their feature-length episode. And my God, that was awesome.
That was very good.
Okay.
That was
Maybe I'll
just
give it a go because I've avoided them up till now.
Yeah,
I recommend it.
I tried watching them and they didn't click
trust
for
your
a bit,
opinion.
so I've walked away from them for a while. Maybe.
I've been a fan of Red.
Try.
Yeah, I've been a fan of Red Dwarf since far longer than I care to remember, and yeah, the especially they do still hit the excellence of season 3. That's the benchmark. It's as good as season 3.
Yeah.
I started watching because my uncle, he's a massive British comedy fan. He got me into Blackadder, got me into 40 Towers. I think I was about 4 years old when he must have been looking after me one day, and he put on a videotape of Red Dwarf, and I don't know why. I think I was just hooked on it straight away. You know, you're just seeing it. I think it was just the whole sci-fi thing. It was just that was my first taste of sci-fi, and you know, I remember watching it, seeing an advert come up on BBC Two, and I said to parents, I said, I'm like 7 years old, so I want to watch this when it's on. I want to watch this. They went, but that's on at like 9:30. That's on after your bedtime. It's like, no, I want to watch it though. And so I had to obviously have it taped, and I'd watch it back over. And when I go into school saying like, watching Red Dwarf, and they go, what's that? What's Red Dwarf? And it was quite fun when I had a few friends around, and I was like, yeah, put the tape on. Apparently, a couple of the parents weren't happy by watching a sitcom, saying it wasn't appropriate for children. It's like there isn't really overly bad that I'd say in Red Dwarf. I say Red Dwarf's quite clean for the most part.
It's mostly slapstick, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
A greater extent, it's just occasionally they use adult themes in places.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, but even then, it's pretty tame.
Yeah.
As you said, it's still
hinted
better
at
than Watch It
anything, isn't
Down.
Yeah, man. Like,
yeah.
I my parents didn't really have any issues with me watching any of that stuff. Like, I remember watching Aliens and things, and the only reason they might not want me is that you might be scared, but there was no, you can't watch this. It was like, you know, the only time we got kicked out of the room was when there was any sort of gratuitous sex scenes and stuff.
Yeah.
It's like it was more to do.
You don't want to watch that with your parents anyway, do you?
Yeah, I was gonna say,
it's one of those awkward moments where your dad's like, out. You're like,
sit in the same room as your parents and watch your Basic Instinct.
I remember
watching the original miniseries with my parents, including the infamous mouse scene or rat scene. Do you remember?
Oh.
So you know, there are definitely worse things.
I just remember me and my brother, because we used to do. My parents used to have like a movie night, and this is like back in the days, ladies and gents, when you had to rent videos and shit from like Extravision and stuff. So we go to like Extravision. My dad would get sort of ice cream, and we were allowed to pick sort of like a film. And me and my brother would always go for like one that had boobs in it or something like that, just so we could, oh yeah, it's all about the guy, the Deathstalker. It's about a barbarian and he's fighting bad guys and stuff. It's not like they're we're doing stuff, but like we watching it. My dad would always pick an Arnold Schwarzenegger film, so we went through all of Arnie films. Like we had like Commando and oh god, Predator and what's it called?
Total Recall.
Yeah, Total Recall. We all of them. I can't believe this. I forgot all of his films.
Conan the Barbarian.
Yeah, Conan. We literally had one every week. There was an Arnie film, but if there was any sex in it whatsoever, he's just like, "Out, get out!" And me and my brother were like, and they closed the curtains, so my dad would like force us to go out before it was in, so we'd run outside and then sort of try and peek in through the curtains and see what was going on.
I started watching the Marvel films with my two eldest, who are 12 and 9, and most of obviously the shit and fuck and piss probably. Now they're old enough to know. Yeah, I've heard those words. They know what they mean, but they know full well they don't say it in polite company around friends or around school or at home. And then we're watching Thor Ragnarok last night, where there is the devil's anus, and I had to explain to Michael what the anus was.
The joints of
Oh,
paradise.
wow.
He's like, yeah, okay. You know where your bottom is?
Ma'am, what's a German Scheiser movie?
Thankfully, not had that question yet.
Oh no, Mr. Slibble, we can't do that. Whoever would clean up afterwards.
I had a Mr. Flibble puppet at one point.
Oh god.
Yeah, back onto anime. Anyway, yeah, I mean,
and there's a lot of anuses in anime. I can tell you that.
Oh, you watch it already?
Tentacle porn.
I've been watching one called Sarazanmai, which is very weird, but it is very. There is a lot of anuses in Sarazanmai. Lots of magic emerging from anuses. It's extremely strange. Quite good. I'm one of those strange people that likes anime if it's not supernatural. Like Patlabor. I love the Patlabors. That's excellent. Yeah. Have you ever seen Cowboy Bebop? I feel like you might enjoy that.
No, I haven't actually.
Cowboy Bebop is
heard of,
an absolute classic.
Is it? Okay. I mean, I've seen.
And the dub is good. So if you can't have subtitles, dub is actually really good.
Okay. Where'd you get it from?
Oh, I think it's on Crunchyroll. It might even be on Netflix actually. But
I think Netflix has got the film, if I remember rightly.
Yeah.
But watch the film first and then watch the series afterwards.
It's superb.
So good.
It's one of the. I mean, it was one of my first. It was not the first anime I ever watched, but it was the first anime that I ever watched and fell in love with, and that kind of to all other anime for me. So I would 100. And it's sci-fi, but it's also it's like a sci-fi western, I guess, is the best way to describe it.
Yeah.
With a dash of gangsters. Very, very good. Strongly recommend.
Yeah.
The Patlabor is very, very good too.
Yeah, what I like about Patlabor was they gave a very realistic portrayal of these mechs. They're not leaping around. It's kind of very slow, purposeful movement, as you'd expect for something so big. That's why I like the Jaegers in Pacific Rim, because they have a very kind of equal, there's a heft and weight to them.
Yeah.
But then I didn't like Uprising because, no, they're just leaping around a bit too much for my physics mind. Yeah, but I mean, what anime would you recommend in general?
Me?
Yes.
It would depend very much on what people enjoy. I mean, so Cowboy Bebop is one of my all-time favourites, but the director of Cowboy Bebop, Shinichiro Watanabe, you can't really go wrong with anything he's made. He deals in different genre every time. So you've got Cowboy Bebop was the first one, which is like a space western. He followed that up with Samurai Champloo, which is it's set during the Edo era Japan.
Oh.
Historical pop and contemporary kind of graffiti culture and stuff like that with it. So it's telling an Edo era story, but with hip hop aesthetics, which is really, really good.
Okay.
Then he followed that up with what came after that? Then Space Dandy, which is just sort of zany, weird things happening in space, and every single episode is like a self-contained story. So they can die in an episode, and they'll come back in the next one, and that's just bonkers. Then Terror and Resonance, which is kind of a contemporary.
I think we got a froze out. Oh, we're back.
Oh, it keeps happening.
You're back. Sorry, you're gonna have to say we zoned out for the last bit. You were talking about terror or something.
Terror in Resonance. Yeah, it's kind of a thriller, but it's kind of got a bit cyberpunk, a bit of crime. Have I gone again?
Ooh. No, you're back now.
No, I'm back. And it's influenced by the music of Sigur Rós, just to have something completely different. And the most recent one, Carol and Tuesday, is totally different, and it's based on music. It's set on Mars, but it's based on kind of like music talent shows. It's kind of a deconstruction of those. So he does something different every single time, but every single time he hits it out the park. So I would definitely say look into Shinichiro Watanabe as a director. I
quite like the Guyver stuff because it was just sort of messy, gory, and have you ever seen the film or anything, the Guyver film?
No, I haven't.
Or the Guyver, I'm sure it's Guyver. It's basically like I'm gonna have to Google this now. Guyver anime. Yeah, Guver. The bio boost. Oh, that's it. Yeah, it's called Guyver. Guyver.
Whatever.
Yeah,
I've seen those.
Yeah, and it's pretty it's pretty bloody and stuff. And to be honest,
armor and stuff.
Yeah, they made a film out of it, and it's pretty bloody as well. But I quite like that. I quite like the Guyver stuff.
The other one I'd recommend is Psycho Pass, which is a near future kind of cyberpunk. It's kind of crime. It's kind of tech noir. It's very Minority Report-esque as well in a lot of ways. It's very critical of things like, particularly from a perspective of Japan, because it's set in Japan. It's critical of Japanese isolationism, but also things like the way that we judge mental health. It's set in a near future where basically people predict criminality based on your mental health and your mental status, and predictably it all goes to shit because it's a terrible way of predicting criminality. It's very, very good, and it has a lot to say about the way the direction society could be heading in. It's still plausible as well, which is worrying.
Yeah. Well, we're already doing that kind of like. I know there's a few police forces in the UK that are trialing behavioural and heuristics in mapping out the likelihood of someone reoffending. And it's just like, and they're going by purely on their police record data, not kind of going by psychological bias. Obviously, these people have done these crimes. How likely are they to escalate into more physical, like violent crimes? But it's still a bit just like the libertarians me going, nope.
Yeah, the problem that Psychopaths presents is that there is no reliable way of measuring it. So in the very first episode, you get a situation where a woman is being assaulted. And obviously the man that's doing the assaulting captured under this. But then the problem is she gets captured under it as well, because the trauma that she's undergoing at that time spikes her mental health. She gives mental health distress signals, but there's no discrimination because the algorithm is set to review a certain frame of mind as being criminal. She gets caught up in that. So and then you get another situation where there's a character who's diagnosed as criminal at 5 years old and has never been free. And then you get a lot of these kind of situations that are very critical of, we're very quick to label people certain things, but we're not interested in actually why a person is like that, or how they can be helped, or how society has created that situation. We're not interested in that. We're just interested in shoving them away and making sure they're not a problem. Yeah. So it's really, from that perspective, it's really interesting.
That sounds quite interesting, actually. Yeah.
Have you watched any of the? I might just come blank. That one about the giants attacking that.
Attack on Titan. Yeah.
Attack on Titan. Have you watched it? Is that any good? I mean, I've watched the first season, and I love the premise, but it feels really stretched.
With Attack on Titan, when they done that first season, obviously it was more hype than substance. I think they obviously had to make this show to make the point that yes, we can adapt it. But season 2 onwards is just a roller coaster of an event. And Joe, what? Even though I've watched them all on Crunchyroll and I watched them all on the Japanese dub, I then still bought them on Blu-ray to watch them all over again in high definition, because I was like, Joe, what? This is just such a good show. And it's the idea that I think originally it started off very over the top. Giant monsters. You're in this walled society, but then you kind of have themes that are very relevant now. You know, sort of like being sectioned off from the rest of the world.
Yeah.
You know, you've got people looking over at you, and you've got these threats that do come, and they feel like everything's being taken away from you. But you know, instead of it bebeing a virus, it's 50-foot tall monsters that just want to eat you. So it's a, you know, there is a, but no, Attack on Titan is fantastic.
It's
but there's
very
another.
critical of Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, after Attack on Titan, if you do want to watch something that's very different, anime that I've watched about 3 times over, it's called Elfen Lied, and
yeah.
tell you what, just the first episode of that show. All right, tell you what, if you can stomach that first episode, you can get through anything, because it is one of the goriest things you will ever see in your life. It's one of them shows that after you've watched it, you go, "Yeah, John, I'm all right now. I don't think I can get through. I don't think I'll ever be traumatized by anything again." Because it's one of them ones that literally you've just got like heads being blown up, you've got body pieces being ripped apart, and just you know, you think, like, you see that elevator scene in The Shining, you think that's a lot of blood. Yeah, that's nothing. This is like next level.
So what are you going to say, Laura?
Oh no, I was just going to say the thing with that with Attack on Titan. Just to say what you were saying, it's very it's very critical of war, and it's very critical of nationalism as well. There's a lot of these themes because the author, there's a bit of controversy because the author has said a few things about World War II and Japan's involvement in Korea, which have been a bit, you know, not so good.
Yeah, they don't like talking about that, do they?
No, and he's of the ilk that, well, from some of the comments he's made anyway, it's difficult to kind of tell in context. But what I will say, that it is very critical of the idea of kind of blind allegiance and propaganda, and you know, it's very cognizant of how much war sucks, and that is, I think, quite a well expressed theme, because basically child soldiers in this anime.
Yeah.
And as you say, in the first series, you don't really get that sense because it's all bombastic and these giants and this is. But as you get into it more and more, the kind of the trauma of being a child soldier in this environment is expressed much better, I think.
It's when you start getting that history as well, especially early part of season 3, you start learning about the royal family that basically put this together. And then you start hearing about all these allegiances that are outside of the walls, who are basically controlling everything that's going on. And without giving too much away, seriously, you have to just sit through it. You have to go through it. And each episode, from season 2, episode 1 onwards, you feel like you're learning something. You're getting an extra piece of that puzzle, which is slowly fitting into place. And by the end of season 3, it has such a massive tonal shift. And you just like, hang on. Why have we gone from here to here? But then you kind of think back the last 3 or 4 episodes beforehand, you go, actually, I can see now why we've gone to this path. And going into season 4, because there's only been a handful of episodes so far of it, it's insane. It is just arguably one of the best shows to have come out of Japan this millennium. You know, that's just it. It's something that I think has grown beyond the initial fan base, the initial fame and the hype, and it's now become something that it's basically event TV almost. It's something you have to see to believe.
There is a phenomenon, isn't there? It's definitely, there's a good reason for it, I think.
Yeah.
But with you talking about Pacific Rim, Matt, are you looking forward to the anime that Nintendo did?
That actually looks pretty good.
Interesting, doesn't it?
Yeah,
it does look good.
The whole kaiju, because I love, like, there's a film me and my brother used to watch when we were kids called Robot Jocks, which is effectively,
that was awesome. That was much more. That was one of the last big stop motion ones, wasn't it?
Yeah, you loved Robot Jocks. So when Pacific Rim came out, I was like, yeah, I'm all for that sort of thing. But
Robot Jocks was something I discovered through the video rental.
Yeah.
God knows how many times I watched that over a space of about 2 or 3 years.
God.
Well, we've been talking about anime and wrestling for about the past hour.
Yeah.
But you also do something else, don't you, Laura?
Sorry?
You also do something else besides talking about wrestling and anime.
Let's go ahead. Let's do whatever you want.
Okay. Oh, some of your books.
Shall we talk about your work?
Do we have to?
I suppose we should really,
No, it's interesting
other
to
than that, we're going
rest
to talk
in
about The Expanse and how awesome it is. But
Yes.
Oh, in
That's
that only took you 5 years.
I've just finished season 5, and I'm just like, oh my god, that's the best thing that's hit TV in so long.
I'm going to have to restart that again because I watched the first season or two a while back and got distracted. And there's no way in hell I can just go in at the end of the season. No. I'm going to have to start all over.
It's a lot of plot.
Yeah, it's so good. Like I'm gutted at it. Well, to be honest, I'm glad that I got to watch it now, and I could watch 5 seasons in a row and jump.
Yeah, there is that. I think.
Yeah, and it's like because people would always tell me, but I think it was because it was on Sci-Fi, and I was just like, sci-fi stuff's generally a bit naff, so I'll not bother with it. And then I started watching it, I think, because obviously you guys had mentioned that, a few guys in WhatsApp groups had mentioned that. I was like, all right, I'll give it a go. And I was hooked from the very start. And the bits and pieces that really I love is, like, the ships seem to fly backwards at parts and stuff, and it's because there's no friction in space, and therefore they have to use the boosters to brake. And stuff like that. It's just like, I love it.
Conservation of momentum.
Yeah.
Also, watch how they pour water and watch how the water flows.
Yeah.
It's the battle scenes where you see the slugs zip through the ships. There's no magical space shields or anything.
Oh yeah. It's all and
there's armor plating, really thick armor plating,
and it's like,
unfortunately, Isaac Newton says.
Yeah, and I mean, probably during the 4 season episodes in season 1, CQB, which is probably the most realistic portrayal of the space battle.
With the space station and the hide and
inertia and also debris fields.
Stunning.
And it's just like, that is, and that's how you would do. It was not just giant ships zooming past each other. It is like small attack craft, and then changing weaponry from torpedoes to Gatling guns to basically shotguns mounted on spaceships to kind of take out the incoming missiles.
Because it reminds me of I read a lot of techno thriller stuff as well and military stuff, and I was reading a bit the other day about like the A-10 and Apaches and like gunships and stuff, and they actually train to use hills and terrain features and low speed as part of their tactics against jet fighters and things in order to defend themselves. They're actually trained to run with A-10s. They find hilly territory and they set up like a wagon wheel, and the idea is that whoever's got their nose pointed can pop up and fire the gun or fire a missile. And the gunships are trained to do the same thing. They're trained to run figure eights around mountain peaks in mountainous terrain, because the opposition either has to play hide and seek at low speed, or you get to hide and pick the point at which you shoot. And it's the same sort of thing, which if you watch that they move around, and the trick is to try and catch the other person out and jump out of the way and pick the right weapon. And that's the thing that I liked about it, was it felt like they were thinking about it properly. It wasn't just, we will make up a weapon that can fix this for us. It was, what do we have and what can we take?
Yeah, and it's just the characters wise, like I said to Pete about it and stuff, but it's like an RPG. It's like you've got this sort of like, starts off with this group of misfits who don't trust each other, don't really like each other, and they sort of kind of mold, and you've got this sort of like, they've all got like hero complexes, but they sort of kind of realize that they're small cogs in a big machine, and they sort of kind of click together, and all kinds of stuff's coming on, and there's character development, but some of them are, it's just like, what's his name? Amos. He's awesome.
Amos,
he's such a good character. Like, because he's just like, he's a cold-blooded killer, but he's got like, a bit of an edge.
But he knows he's a cold-blooded killer.
Yeah, and it's just sort of.
Yeah, he kind of relies on the other characters to be his moral compass.
Yeah, there's a bit in it, and it's hilarious. I think it's in season 4 or something, and he's like, he's sort of. They're on the planet. He's basically having sex with this sort of security woman, and he's like, she's obviously on an opposite sort of side to him, and he basically, something happens and shit goes down, and she comes up to him and says, "Oh, you can't do that," and stuff, and she says, "So does this mean we're not fucking anymore?"
I mean, I've only seen the first 2 seasons. I remember the one with the kids and the doctor, where where the dad walks away, he tells him to walk away, and the door closes. He says, "The bad news is you're locked in a room with me now, and I'm not him."
Oh yeah, that was
I think it was like
so good. Yeah.
Basically, the dad was basically saying like, "No, right, I'm going to kill you," and Amos just goes,
"That's not you.
You're not that kind of guy," and then turns to the black guy and goes, "I am that kind of guy."
Yeah.
And I think one of the most iconic scenes for me was in season 3, where at the very end, Amos, the cold-blooded killer, is looking after the kids because he's got in his mind, he's got to protect these innocent children because he doesn't want to happen to them what's happened to him.
Yeah, don't think.
And he's basically like looking at pouring them all like cereal, giving them some milk, and he's watching the monitor and saying with the kids, "What the fuck?"
Yeah.
Completely unbothered the fact that there's children there, but just like that's what he does.
There's just a lot of layers to it. It doesn't seem to be getting stale. Like one of my mates said that season 4 and 5 aren't they're a bit slower, not as good. But it's not that. It's just they do something different to sort of break it up a bit. And
Telling
it's
different stories.
Yeah, it's more like it's not about they're not on the Rocinante. They're on planets. They're all sort of like it's different stuff's happening, and
it's the same reason that so many people have issues with different Star Trek series. It's because it's the old joke, isn't it? You wanted something different, we gave you something different. Now you're complaining.
Yeah,
but something different, but the same.
Yeah. But I think they do it well in the Expanse. Is sort of like
because they do continue to move the plot forward.
Yeah.
And like it's all about like the proto molecule, the impact it has, and like things happen, and then there's consequences for what happens, and then exploring the consequences, and in so doing, more consequences happen. So it's basically a cascading avalanche of stories to explore.
Well, that's it. And even my missus, who is not a nerd in any way, shape, or form, and she's like, she got proper. She started off doing the whole "I'm on my phone, I'm not interested" to like going, "Oh my god, I can't believe it!" And when she gets like, she's amazing because like she gets into something, she starts to get stressed out, and she starts walking around the room and sort of kind of going, "Oh my god," things like proper stressed out. It's hilarious to watch, man, because she's so into it. She's like, if somebody's gonna die, she's like, "Oh my god," she's wandering around the room. So awesome. Really love it. Like really just sci-fi wise, I don't think I've seen anything as good in a long time. It's just
But I like a show like that. I like something that you feel attached to and you almost feel like you can't pull yourself away from. And if it does feel like it's almost personally affected you, you know that the show has done something right. It's done something to really hook you. I think the last time I felt that, funny enough, I was watching Better Call Saul, and that's one of them shows that originally I almost wrote it off because I love Breaking Bad, and I thought this is just going to be a poor imitation of a show. It's going to try and be what it was before, but it hasn't. It's been its own show. It's been phenomenal, and it's just how well it's grown. And I don't know if do you guys watch Better Call Saul? Do you?
I watched some of it. I watched Breaking Bad, but I watched on and off Better Call Saul. I haven't got into it yet, but it's I did enjoy Breaking Bad. So
yeah, I mean the thing is it's like a lot of shows. The first season is very much it gets all its teething problems out of the way. It's trying to set its tone. After that, it's just a fantastic show, and one of the best characters in it is Kim Wexner, who's an original character to Better Call Saul, never been in Breaking Bad, and she's this one that's been like the heart of the show. No matter all these characters that have got this very moral grey area, you can't tell whether their intentions are good or bad. She's always that one that is the right person to go with if anything happens. And then in season 5, all of a sudden her character just changes. And I just went, holy fuck, when did that happen? And it's like this character who you always thought was the moral center of everything, this one person who you could trust, and all of a sudden it's like, I don't know if you can anymore. This is frightening. And because they haven't announced when the last season's going to be out, I reckon it's going to be sort of like end of the year. I'm just begging now that they can actually do justice to what they've set up, because they're putting together what could possibly be a better finale than Breaking Bad, and that was one of my all-time favourite shows, and just that final episode is still one of my all-time favourites. If they can top that, I don't think you can have a show that could be much better.
The guy we've got on the podcast next week, he's a prop maker and a sort of like a prop historian type guy called Mike. He looks like Walter White, like literally, he's he literally is Walter White.
I am the one who knocks.
Another show that I get mentioned on this very podcast, and I went, "Oh, okay, I'll give it a go." Was Upload. Yeah, and it's only one season, but I really enjoyed that. I think it's a really good premise. It's funny, but it's sort of got a good edge to it and stuff.
Yeah, my only complaint was that the final episode, well, for the entire season, it had been a comedy with like underlying mystery. The final episode, it went to a mystery with underlying comedy elements, which felt like a massive tonal shift from what they'd established.
Yeah, well, we'll see. I saw a thing on Twitter. Obviously they started filming the second season and stuff. So fingers crossed.
Yeah. Well, it gets a lot of shows.
What do you recommend, Laura?
TV?
Yeah.
I have to admit, I don't watch a lot of TV, to be honest. Mainly I'm anime, then watch wrestling.
Apart from anime and wrestling.
Apart from anime and wrestling. What have I watched recently that I've enjoyed? You know what? It's been a long time since I actually watched TV. It's terrible. My husband's always having a go at me because he's got all these things queued on Netflix. We get we're going to watch it. We never get around to watching it, so he ends up watching.
Are you the kind of person? Do you watch shows together at the same time? And you're like, you won't go forward unless you're both watching it.
We try to. We've got different tastes. Like he really likes The Expanse, and I'm not as into hard sci-fi as he is.
Yeah.
So he's watched The Expanse and what are the other ones? He's a few other shows that are very similar in tone to that. Really enjoyed. But yeah, it used to be like that. It used to be like, we'll have to watch it together, and now it's like he gets tired because I won't watch it, so he's like, I'm just gonna go watch it without you, which is totally fine. I don't know, it takes a lot for me to really get into a TV show.
Have you watched WandaVision? Have you been watching WandaVision?
No, I'm not
on Disney Plus.
I've been kind of put off by it because I don't really like Marvel universe stuff.
Oh wow, that's a.
I know.
Wow.
Opinion.
Yeah. Wow.
It's just not my thing. It's not that it's bad. It's just not my thing.
But you say that. That's what my girlfriend says as well. But then anything that's comic book based, anything like that, she just says, "No, it's a cartoon." And it's like, what do you mean it's a cartoon? Well, it's boring. It's rubbish.
I do like some comic book stuff. Like I love X-Men. And I grew up watching X. The original animated series. I've grew up. X-Men. And I like Constantine, Hellblazer. I love that, and I'm still waiting for a good adaptation of that.
I was just about to say about X-Men. It's right next to me as well.
Yes,
I've rewatched this DVD so many times. I don't even know if the disc still works. But what was next to it? I've got Pushing Daisies.
The
DVD collection is very weird, if I've got to be honest.
I do. There are, it's not that I don't get into TV shows. I do like Hannibal is one of the best TV shows ever made, in my opinion. It doesn't need another series. I know everyone wants a series, but I don't think it needs another series. I think it ended exactly where it needed to end. That's my feeling on that.
Have you seen Alice in Borderland on Netflix?
No, but that is on my list. Long that I've not got to and may never get to, but I've heard it's really, really good.
If you like a good costume drama, The Bridgertons is actually quite good. I do like a costume
Bridgerton,
drama.
yeah,
it's really good. And we went from that because my missus, I was like, I need to watch. We've done all the sort of kind of fighty sci-fi stuff. We need something that maybe is a bit more sort of like that. I was like, oh, she might like. My mum was talking about Bridgerton, so I was like going for that, and it's like, it's really good. And then we went from that back into Downton Abbey, so we went through Downton Abbey. She loved that. She was crying her eyes out throughout it and stuff. Loved it.
I got about half of Bridgerton in pieces because my other half was binging it over Christmas. So I'd go past, or I'd be sitting there eating, and I'd get bits of it, and she got upset because I could keep track of what was going on without actually watching all of it.
Do you know what's also good? Nightfall. Nightfall. It's a shame it's only 2 series. But it's got Mark Hamill in the second series and stuff. And it's a shame because it was really good. And you could tell they knew it was getting cancelled because the ending's a bit sort of like, we're going to do this, and then suddenly something happens and you're just like, all right, okay, so that is definitely the end of this series then. But it's really good, and it's got loads of the characters from Downton Abbey, and we'd literally just watched Downton Abbey, and then all of them are in this series, and Ghost is just going, oh right, okay, so it's just a more bloody version of Downton Abbey.
When I have line...
See, I could be into a bloody version of Downton Abbey. That sounds fun.
But also, there's Space Sweepers that's just been pushed up on Netflix. That's on my to watch list. Which is
yeah,
crazy,
somebody
isn't
was
it?
talking about that recently. It's weird though, because I don't know what it is. People keep on going on, you need to watch this, you need to watch this, and as soon as somebody goes, you need to watch that, I'm like, nah.
Yes, I'm the same.
I'm just like,
I'm
nah.
absolutely the same.
That explains my singular refusal to still having watched or read anything Harry Potter.
Yeah, well, it's like I've watched I've never watched a Harry Potter film voluntarily. It's always either just been on, and I've just sort of I've had to sort of kind of watch it because everybody else was watching it and stuff.
I can tell you what happens. I can tell you about the characters, but I've never actually watched the film.
Harry.
Yeah, it's
That's
not.
all I know.
For me, it's a second-rate Lord of the Rings, and it's just sort of doesn't really sort of
I don't know.
That's
say the
so
Hobbit
getting
films are a
letterboxed tomorrow.
second-rate Lord of the Rings.
But yeah, it's just I just need to do it with books as well. Like I remember somebody telling me about Game of Thrones ages ago, and like I was just like, nah, I've done Lord of the Rings, I've got my sharp novels, and then I've got my history books which I like, so I don't deviate very far from like things like that. And then they start talking
Well, they
about
tell you have to, yeah.
And then I'm just like, nah, I'll bother. And then the only reason I started was because my sister had started it, and they were filming the series in my backyard, effectively.
Oh, of course, yeah.
Yeah, they were filming it basically in the forest where my parents' house is. They were like in the field across the way. They were filming it. There's scenes in the first series and some in the second actually where you can see where we used to play there. We used to sort of kind of do that and stuff. But yeah, it's just all right. I'll give it a go, and it was because Sean Bean was in it as well. So it's like, I do like Sean. I do like Sean Bean.
Very briefly, he was in it.
I do like Sean Bean, so I'll give that a whirl. And then I was like, oh my god, this is fucking awesome, and I like binged it. Oh no way! There you go.
It's Lilu. He's sensed a camera, so he wants to join in.
Yeah,
Lilu, yeah.
As in Fifth Element.
As in Fifth Element, because
Excellent taste.
Where's his multipass?
He's he's over there with his chicken. His chicken good, isn't it, baby?
You've also got another Sean Bean sort of steampunk / sort of futurist. Yeah, it's pretty good. I'm on season 2 and it's doing it episode by episode, and yeah, it's really good. And I didn't realize that Jennifer Connelly is the wife of English actor who plays Vision.
Yes, yeah. Paul Bettany.
Paul Bettany, yeah.
Which is how she got to be the voice of Spidey Sue.
Yeah. Basically, he said to her, "Do you fancy doing something
a really
like
easy gig?" And they've got a really easy gig. They're paying lots of money for it.
The money's good, and it's only a few hours a day.
She plays the what's the name of the AI she plays?
I can't remember the name, but yeah.
Do you know what was it? It wasn't Karen, was it?
No. It's like Summer or Wednesday or something along those. Is it Friday? Friday, yeah. Friday. And so it's made so both husband and wife have been an AI in the Marvel universe. So it's just like, that's really good. And I watched the video, and it's quite sweet because they're asking the actress who plays, I'm horrible with names, actress who plays Scarlet Witch and
Elizabeth Olsen.
Yeah, Elizabeth Olsen and Bethany about who was your first sort of TV crush, and he says Jennifer Connelly in Labyrinth, and obviously they're married, and he says like my first crush was her, and she's married to her and stuff. Yeah. So
but then that was Jason Momoa said the same thing as well, didn't he? About when he was younger, his first crush was his now wife. Yeah, that was quite a story. Yeah.
Who's Momoa?
He's married to the one from the Cosby Show. What's her name? Lisa Bonet.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. All right. Okay.
Because obviously she was originally in a relationship with Lenny Kravitz, but apparently Jason Momoa used to watch her on TV, and apparently he said to his mum one day, "I want to marry her." And then
that must have been a fun groom speech at the wedding.
Well, can you imagine though if Lenny Kravitz was invited to it as well, and just goes, your former wife is now my wife. But we can be buds, can't we? We can be friends.
Yeah, you're not going to mess with Jason Momoa, though. He's built like a
Oh,
tank.
God, no.
He's
His
huge.
best friend stood behind him with a bit of card saying "Achievement unlocked."
Yeah. Built like a
Oh
tank.
dear.
Yeah.
But you saying about like we were saying about like ignoring stuff because everyone says you have to watch it. Everyone used to say you have to watch Gotham, for example, and I really clicked for me. And then I like binged it in like a month flat about 12 months ago, and really enjoyed it. But I think part of the reason I enjoyed it was so I could just drive through the whole thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You don't necessarily have to have everyone's opinion on it as well. I think for me, it's the hype, and everyone talking about it. And sometimes I just need to have the time to process it myself. Yeah. Without everyone around me talking about it.
With Netflix and everything else, where it'll just pop up. Say, have you thought about it? You're like, actually, no one's bitched at me about that for ages. It might be But
I love you get some very random ones as well. Like I was rewatching Dexter on Netflix, and when that finished, it went, "Yes, do you want to now watch Downton Abbey?"
That's confusing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you know what? Downton Abbey is good. It is really good. I didn't think I'd like it. It was again one of my exes was like, "Let's watch this." I was like, "No way am I watching this. It's gonna be horrible." And then I got into one episode and went, "Okay, I'm hooked now." And I just sort of kind of watched it through. And I used to watch it with my mother at Christmas and things when the Christmas episode was coming on. And yeah, just love it. Really good. We even watched the film. We went through the series and then bought the film and watched it.
Oh, we caught that at the cinema because the other half was into it and her mum was, and her dad was sat there just taking the piss, but he still watched it. But that whole recommendation thing was how I ended up watching. Have you seen The Toys That Made Us on Netflix?
Oh yeah, so good. Yeah.
For some reason, it had gone straight past me, and it came out and said, "Have you considered watching?" I was like, "What's that?" Well, that was a day wasted then. Like sort of 10 o'clock in the morning. It's 5 o'clock, and the other half's giving me grief.
You're gonna have to excuse me for 1 minute. My cat has decided, because my dog is a bit of an asshole sometimes, and he lies at the bottom of the stairs so the cat can't get down. So the cat's now at the top of the stairs going meow meow meow, and the dog's lying down there going ha 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 ha. You're not getting anywhere. So you talk amongst yourself. Be right back.
Okay. I was just going to say that on Disney Plus there was a documentary series that came out about all the old Marvel properties and like the history of them. And the first episode was about the Japanese Spider-Man. My God, I love Japanese Spider-Man. And I remember a friend of mine,
Spider-Man, but
a friend of mine had the videotapes of it, and basically it was the precursor to a lot of the Power Rangers stuff that we didn't get to see. Because this was like one of the first shows that actually had like the equivalent of a Megazord, basically.
Yeah.
What does Spider-Man do? He's actually been given his powers by an alien. He's given a robotic suit to fight the forces of evil.
He's back.
You could have had a looser adaptation of a Marvel property if you tried. But I watched every episode. Me and my friend, we watched every episode. And bear in mind, it was only the first couple of tapes actually had the English subtitles, and all the rest of them had a very bad dub on them. And the English dub. Bear in mind, this was like 1978, 1979. You could tell the effort just wasn't there.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm here, the emissary of death, Spider-Man. It's like, no, this is god awful.
Speaking of Japanese Spider-Man, what do you think of the new Godzilla films coming out and Godzilla versus Kong? What's your take on all this?
It's going to be so generic, isn't it?
What do you think, Laura?
Godzilla, I think the further Godzilla gets to the west, the more is lost, I think, with Godzilla. I think it has to be a Japanese property because it is such a Japanese idea. I mean, like the whole genesis of Godzilla was born out of nuclear anxiety, wasn't it? That was the whole point. It was a post-Hiroshima kind of expression of national trauma. So when you try and westernize Godzilla, it just doesn't work. I don't think I've ever seen a recent Godzilla property that I've actually thought was any good, to be honest. But I don't know. It might be good. I'll reserve judgment until I've seen it. But
I mean, 2014 one was quite good.
Godzilla seems to. Sorry.
I was just saying, I think Pacific Rim is the best Godzilla that I've seen, and it's not even Godzilla, you know.
Did the Japanese license the 2014 Godzilla just so they could feature him in the Godzilla versus Kong thing and have him get the crap kicked out of him in like the first minute of the trailer or something? Or they ran a promo where the new Godzilla just stepped on him, basically.
Thing is, though, it's going to be with Godzilla versus Kong is going to be like Batman versus Superman. It's going to be them knocking the top. Say it again. Yeah, they had a mother called Martha. Yeah, so you're going to have the two of them knocking the shit out of each other to start off with. Then there's going to be a common foe, and then it's going to be it's okay, everything's fine. They were just sort of trying to save us.
You know how the story's going to go already.
Yeah, and I'll look forward to. I'll watch it, but
story by committee.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, like Godzilla kind of started out as like nuclear anxiety, but it seems like as it's become moved over to the West, or rather, I should say, as had Western interpretations, it seems to become more of a kind of a protector of Gaia and protector of Earth against global warming. And it just seems a bit really.
It doesn't work, does it? I think is the problem. I think the problem is when you take something that is very like uniquely Japanese, like kaiju, and you try and adapt it to a Western mindset, you lose something. You have to try and keep it as close to what it was as possible. I think that is what Pacific Rim actually did well.
Yeah,
was that Pacific Rim didn't try and Westernize the kaiju. It just rolled with the idea, and it worked.
Yeah, it just said what are they supposed to be doing normally? Kicking the crap out of cities and destroying things. So what's the most overblown way you can think of to try and fight back at them? Well, the Japanese already do that with giant robots. Cool. Right, who can we find to plug into the robots?
Yeah, we don't need to try and find a way to make this palatable to a Western audience. We're just going to go with what the original idea, and that's why it worked. You're right. Godzilla is. Yeah, I don't like when they try and put some kind of ulterior logic behind it. It's just let it be what it is. You don't need to make it Captain Planet reason for it.
Captain Planet! Wow!
Just realised. Yes, thank you. Just ruined the new Godzilla film for me.
Oh god!
Godzilla is Captain Planet.
I remember having an argument.
5 little kids going heart.
Yeah. Oh man, I had an argument with my brother. And I was just like, it's earth, fire, water, wind, and water. And my brother says, yeah, and heart. And I was like, is there fucking guy called Heart in it? And it's just like, yeah, there's a guy called, there's a one with Heart. And then I watched it, I went, oh my God, there is. I must have blocked him out. I was just like the most ridiculous thing.
It wasn't even a cool power. No one even knew what it did. It's just that Heart was the arse pull power. When you needed someone to kind of pull something out their arse to save the day, that was what Heart did. Yeah. It didn't do anything.
It's like Meg's fingernails in that episode of Family Guy where they all get superpowers and she just gets slightly longer nails.
Yeah, that's Heart.
I'm just trying to think of other pretty lame superpowers and stuff. What's the Jubilee with the fireworks?
Yes, what does she do in the animated series? She blows up a VCR, because that's 1992 for you.
That was a big
I
thing
always thought Rogue had the worst deal though, because Rogue couldn't touch people. No,
man, I had such a thing for Rogue, man.
I was
gutted when she was who she was in the films, because the Rogue who I grew up with was this awesome Southern belle. He called people sugar, and it was just like, oh, that's awesome. She's amazing. And then she just wasn't who she was.
Yeah.
When obviously you had the comic book version of Rogue is fantastic. It's such a very deep and layered character. In the films, because obviously rights and everything, and certain characters they can and can't use, they basically just went right. Yeah, Rogue's basically a person who just can't touch anyone, otherwise she'll kill them. Right? Okay, that's what we're going to lead with. We're not going to have this intrigue where she swaps powers. She's had her power because of Captain Marvel, all this stuff. No, she just basically sucks the life out of them. That's it. That's all we're going to give. Yeah, bad.
It's a pretty sucky power. I like her a lot, but as powers go, it's a pretty terrible power to have.
But I remember seeing a cartoon someone did, which was quite funny, where she came up and she kept snacking at stuff, and so I said, "What's going on?" She goes, and she said, "I can't help it. There's lots of mosquitoes out at the moment, and every time one of them lands on me because it's hungry, I absorb it, and it dies. but it just means I'm permanently hungry. I'm probably going to put on like 12 pounds today. This idea is just this vague and unending hunger from all these little bugs that kept landing on her and dying, and all they left behind was this vague, I'm still hungry. Kind of horrible thought, though.
Saying about Rogue, I was actually chatting earlier with someone talking about the, obviously because X-Men is now going to be part of Marvel Cinematic Universe. Say about if they're going to recast some characters. I was trying to think who would actually be an ideal Rogue for going forward in the MCU. And I was rewatching Zombieland Double Tap the other night, and Abigail Breslin, I think, would be a fantastic Rogue. I think she's got that charm to her, but I reckon she could also pull off the accent pretty well too. So
she is good. Yeah, I can see that.
It's you remember as well, because I like watching both Zombieland films. You see like Abigail Breslin growing up. You forget that she's now 24 years old. And you go, Jesus, that's not the same person, is it? But yeah, actually,
getting old.
Well, there's that joke, isn't there, that Will Wheaton is now the same age today that Patrick Stewart was when he started playing.
Yeah.
Oh wow!
And there was another one I saw, which is great, where it's a picture of the girl that played Naomi Wildman, who's like 24, and it's like, this is Naomi Wildman. And you're just like, yeah, I feel old.
Well, I was watching Hannah last night, and I realised she was born in about the lead actress was born in I think 2001.
Yeah, my baby sister. My baby sister turned 20 the other day. She's born in 2001. She was 20 years old a few days ago, and I was 15.
Yeah.
So like to think that she's 20 years old now, I just think, oh my god.
The prequel the prequel Star Wars films are as old now as when the
original trilogy were when they came out.
Yeah, it's mad. That is absolutely mad. And hello to RJ Hale on the comments. Good day,
He's back again.
He's back again, yeah.
And he can hear you this time.
He can hear me, yeah. We were playing Age of Empires at the weekend, and because something happened with OBS, like audio from the computer and the mic went down, and I didn't realize for the entire game, because and it was just like people going on saying things to me, and I was replying away thinking it was going off, and then once again Mr. Hale comes in, and basically I'm like, oh shit, audio's down once again. It's like he has a sense. He comes in and into the comments just to say, audio's down. Oh, right, okay. Thanks, RJ. Much appreciated, man.
That's his superpower, isn't it?
That's his superpower, yeah.
Saving Matt from getting his foot stuck in his mouth.
Yeah, pretty much. We did it with Dungeons and Dragons, where the first hour, it was a really good hour, and my microphone wasn't on, because I'd muted it, so everybody would be quiet.
We could hear him,
and then
but the streamers couldn't.
And I muted it, and then RJ comes in and says, "Yeah, your mic's off," and I was like, "Oh, for fuck's sake!" So I had to go back the next day and do an overdub of basically what happened in the first hour. So
how did you remember?
Well, I just can't. Because it's some of it's basically just stuff I already knew what was going to happen, and then it was just like there was the main points, like this happened, they had a chess game, he lost, blah blah blah, this is going to happen and stuff. Plus we have like a Discord group where we sort of do some RPing on it and stuff. Currently I'm seeing if I can lure our cleric into a trap or not. So I've basically given her a box she can or cannot open, and we'll see what happens. So yeah, I do enjoy RPing on. I feel like I can do a better job when I RP on Discord and stuff, because I've got more time to think about it and sort of get a bit more. Yeah. Whereas I'm not, as much as everything I know what's going to happen in my head, I have got a direction of the storyline and how things are going to go, but
we screw it up.
Yeah, that, or partially it's like I can't sort of get it out quick enough. I'm not quick-witted enough to sort of, get things out the way I want them and stuff. Whereas you're doing it on Discord, I can spend a lot of time sort of thinking about it, and it's a good storyline, and I can sort of really sort of put all my all into it. Whereas, these guys wanted to have a boar eating competition in a bar, and I'm like, all right, okay, so let's do this. And I
didn't. It was just Wes wanted to, and it's like, okay.
and some other things, and it's just like they wanted to go off and do stuff, and I was just like, all right, one, I'm slightly pissed, and two, this, I don't have anything, so I was like, right, okay, so let's do this. But yeah, I like doing it because when they go off in tangents, it means the story can go off in tangent, and you can work with it. It works quite well, storyline and stuff. And I've got some mischievous shit that's going to happen soon, so looking forward to it.
To be fair though, it's quite funny seeing that look of panic in your eyes sometimes. When we was like, we're going to do such and such, and you're just like,
oh, wait.
Oh yeah, well, Laura, my most sort of stressful moment in Dungeons and Dragons history is we'd just started. I hadn't played Dungeons and Dragons in years. None of us had. We hadn't done it in years. We thought we'll start off with like a one shot. I had the story together. It was like there's about 6 episodes, right? It was a story, and it was just like literally right. There's no real character development. It's set characters. You're going to do something. It's an investigation. You're going to do this, and this. There's no way you can fuck this up because it's very linear. It's literally go here, do this and this. And then it's like I was sort of hinting.
I'm waiting for the butt.
Yeah, I was hinting at stuff.
The butt is giggling over there.
Yeah, and then basically Pete, who's the wizard, he's like, so I'm not giving away, but basically there's a creature in it, and Pete, they basically sort of said, well, next time we see it, we'll just we'll attack or something like this. And I then explained that this thing was massive.
As I said, next time we see it, I'll cast Fireball. We saw it. I cast Fireball. Unfortunately, I didn't fully appreciate the entire scale of the beast that we were facing.
And it was just like, I just went, did you just do that? Did you just roll those dice? And he's like, yeah. And I was just like, and I was just like, oh shit, this is going to kill the story. This is going to kill the stream. I have no idea how to deal with this situation. So I was just like, right, okay, you two have literally you've got 2 dice rolls. If you succeed, you've tackled him and you can push the fireball out of the way. So thankfully they got a high enough number and the fireball hit the wall and basically set fire to the inn they were in. And
the follow-up was fun as well.
Yeah, that's it. So he
put out the fire with thunderclap and collapsed the building on top of us.
Yeah, and then they got kicked. They got kicked out of town. And
which to be fair, did put out the fire.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There you go.
Do you play Dungeons and Dragons at all?
Do you know, for the first, I started playing for the first time this year, or last year, because 2020 was a lockdown, with a bunch of friends. I'd never played it before, and they were like, "Come on, give it a go." And we played it because we're nerds. We played like an anime themed one. We based it on an anime that we all watch.
Nice.
To help ease me into it. It was really fun. It was really, really fun. I'm surprised I never tried it. Yeah, I really enjoyed it.
It is. It's time consuming.
To come back in, do a bit more D&D.
Yeah, I would. I'd definitely try it again. Yeah, it was not something I'd RP'd. In words back in old fandom days. So I kind of had an idea worked, but it was the mechanics of it that I didn't get. So they were very kind and they were very forgiving of me for not knowing what I was doing.
Because there's there's some anime themed role playing games out there.
Yeah, there are. Yeah, I did have afterwards. I had browse of some. There's so many different ones. There's a Firefly themed one, isn't there? Somewhere, which looks pretty much
fun. Every franchise has a role playing game. I mean, there's a
Mass Effect. There's a Mass Effect D20 based one that someone did. It's an unofficial one, but it's based on one of the D20 systems.
Oh, that sounds fun. I want to be a Hannah.
The thing is, you can work anything in to sort of you can work it in our Dungeons and Dragons is pretty much homebrew, and homebrew's just shorthand for we're making it up as we go along, so nobody can turn around and go
because we were based on this anime. It was like it was set in a particular period of Japanese history, so you've got sort of this, what you're dealing with. And then we were just like, should we magic in there? Yeah, let's just fucking throw magic into it. Let's go crazy. It was really good fun. I really enjoyed it. I can't believe it took me to be like 34 years old before I started playing D&D. Given the massive nerd that I am, but it just never really had the opportunity before. It was really good.
Timing and people a lot of the time.
Yeah.
Like you, if you're not in the right place for it, then you might have friends that are doing it, but you just don't see the point.
Yeah.
Or
Well, I
you
think
might want it, but no one you know or trust is into it.
Lockdown was good for that because it kind of
Yeah.
brought a bunch of people together who were like, look, we need to do something social. But rather, something social that isn't just sitting around talking, because we've done a lot of sitting around talking. So we're like, all right, let's just try this. And it was brilliant.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I was doing some research on this for around the start of the second lockdown, and the virtual tabletops provides that which you can host, so like Roll20 and Fantasy Grounds. Their usage increased, like their new members increased 16-fold in the first quarter of 2020, and their usage like quadrupled.
Wow!
Just because people were using role-playing games obviously to play role-playing games, but we're using that as a tool to kind of connect with each other and maintain social relations. Because I mean, I think only a quarter of the time in a role-playing game is actually spent role-playing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The other time is spent just chatting, ranting with your mates.
But it gets you away from that bit where all of you are staring at each other, trying to figure out what to say next.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had.
Roll initiative. Okay.
Yeah, it's stressful. It's stressful for DMs though, because you're not. It's like a mixture of making sure the story is okay, making sure the group has cohesion, because you're invariably going to find that people fall out with each other for some reason or other, and then there's got people who want to do one thing, and then others who want to do another, and then you're just trying to sort of kind of firefight now and again to get things sort of kind of in line.
You did choose to do it for your own homebrew at the same time, which you're making up as you go along, so you don't even have. You don't even have that to hide behind, because everyone says, well, you keep saying homebrew when you want to do stuff. I want to do it. Why can't I?
Because I am the law.
You are the law.
I am the law. And it's just like, I just get to the point now where I'm just like, no. And I'm just like, no, you're not doing that. That's not happening and stuff. It's just like things, well, why? I'm like, no, not happening. You're not doing it. It's just... There has to be someone lines.
Someone has to put the foot down. Yeah. Otherwise, it's chaos.
Yeah, but the thing is, you get sort of like, I'm happy to do most things, but then you get what I don't like is people sort of retrofitting things. So they'll come in and go, well, I'm doing this, and I'm just like, well, you can't, because it has no relevance to your character or anything you're doing and stuff, and it's just. Yeah, it sort of kills the story and stuff. And I don't like people doing stuff and then going, yeah, but my character would do this. And it's like, yeah, but you didn't. You didn't do that. So, yes, but they would have. And it's like, yeah, but you didn't. So that's sort of, this is the way.
Someone needs to control it a little bit, don't they? I don't envy that job at all. I do not.
Yeah.
So you'd be tempted to DM a game?
Eventually. But very eventually, I'd have to get a lot more used to playing it and how the mechanics work first. But eventually, it looks like it would be quite a fun challenge.
Oh yeah, it is a lot of fun, and it's very rewarding. Like when I used to run Mech Warrior for some mates back in the day, I just kind of set them a problem, and I just sit back and just enjoy watching them trying to solve it and what. I'm going, okay, you're doing all my work for me, thank you.
Well, you have current experience as well, don't you, Pete?
Pardon?
You have current experience as well, don't you?
Yeah, with your
kids. Being Daddy DM.
Yes, I am. I'm running D&D for my two older children and my wife.
Oh, that's fantastic.
And really they're doing surprisingly well at it. They do really well, really, really well. My eldest son, he loves the idea of game. He's playing this Dragonborn fighter, and he's going, "This is great. When can we play D&D again, Daddy?"
Oh, that's amazing.
And like this, we don't do epic long games. We do like an hour and a half, something like that. Just like instead of stories, like, okay, we tell our own stories now. Mm-hmm. Okay, what are you going to do? How are you going to do it? And they come up with like, so not always with violent solutions, which is great. I mean, I think in their first adventure, they met a gelatinous cube, which is the thing that kind of goes around eating things. And rather than trying to kill it, they let it out of the tomb using their rations, and basically befriended it and just let it out with a trail of rations.
When you think about it, it's I reckon it's got to be good for kids because it's teaching them things like teamwork and
Yeah, it used to like teamwork, improvisation, maths, probability, problem solving,
and even just confidence to make decisions. I think it's it's got to be good for kids.
Absolutely.
I think that's fantastic.
Keeps them quiet as well. Like I remember as a kid, like I used to play it. One of our neighbors, they're called the Lawsons. Like we would play. It would be like Space Crusade one week, or Hero Quest another, or Dungeons and Dragons, and we play. I remember sort of playing Dungeons and Dragons for the first time as a kid, and just having this sort of like thing in my head going, oh my god, I can do whatever I want, and my character is my own, and I can sort of this whole thing. I remember getting the books and just building a character and then giving him all his cool gear and going, oh yeah, I want this and I want this and I'm going to do this, and just spending ages sort of kind of going and being like super excited about the whole thing, just like really enjoying it. So I think it's awesome for kids. I think if I ever had kids, I'd definitely do it for them. Definitely.
Well, I mean, like, I got like the guide to D&D, these 4 booklets, and my son busy picked up the weapons and armor book as like before he went to bed one night, and he came downstairs next morning. I read this twice, and I got a list. Okay, I want some plate armor. I want a great sword. And with the long list, I'm like, okay, right, I will have to see if you can find it.
Like a letter to Santa.
Pretty much. This is a letter to the DM. Yeah. So eventually, that's
what I need.
So after several adventures, he's finally got himself its +1 great sword, and he couldn't be happier.
That's it. That's fantastic.
Yeah, I think it was the kids though, because you're in that place where magic is real.
Yeah.
And Dungeons and Dragons is more real because of it and stuff. You haven't been jaded by old age and stuff, and it's just so much more sort of like, interesting and stuff. It just
what they really like is when things go wrong.
I like it when things go wrong as well.
Rather than kind of putting them in jeans, I kind of add a comic spin to it.
But the thing is, that's a good thing as well. The thing that cripples most kids as they get old is fear of failure.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, especially in the last sort of 20 or 30 years, people become very risk averse because they can't understand the concept of failure. But most of the really successful business people, and especially in the technology sector, say you have to be able to fail and pick yourself up. And so things like D&D for kids is really valuable because it teaches them that you can fail without it being the end. That you can find a way around that. You can pick yourself up.
Making mistakes is how you improve.
Yeah.
No, you're totally
also
right.
that refusing to make a decision is a decision on its own and will usually end badly, which is also a good thing to learn, because too many people just sit there and hope that someone else will make that choice for them. Politicians not mentioned.
But I think I think it helps you sort of with disappointment and things like that as well.
Yeah.
Like I remember. It's an odd sort of memory, but it always sticks with me. Like, but obviously I've been into Dungeons and Dragons and stuff, and you had things, and characters die and stuff like this, and things don't go the way you want them to, and you sort of kind of get used to that. And I remember Christmas, my dad had got me a 32X, which is basically for the Mega Drive. It was like you put it on the top of it,
the top bit, yeah.
And it wasn't working. And I could see my dad was super stressed by this whole thing because, I got my dad, where Father Christmas had got me the 32X and it wasn't working and stuff. And he was trying his hardest to sort of fix it for me so I could play it on Christmas Day. And I just sort of kind of remember saying to him, it doesn't matter, Dad, it's okay. Don't worry about it. It's fine. And just being completely sincere about it, because it was just like, that's just life. That's things happen and stuff. And him just sort of kind of like, and then we realized it was because there was an additional plastic thing on the bottom of it that needed to come off, and then it worked. But it was just like, in my mind, I was just like, I didn't think of anything of it back then, but thinking back, I was just like, yeah, well, most kids, not most kids, a lot of kids would throw a tantrum or kind of go, and I was just like, it doesn't matter, it's okay, I don't, it's fine. But yeah, and it's definitely a lesson learned from playing games and stuff,
Yeah.
I don't think I actually ever played anything through the 32X. It was always just straightforward on the 16-bit cartridge.
Oh man, we had the Mega Drive, the 32X, and the Mega CD, And yeah, me and my brother just hammered it all the
Jesus,
time.
that must be some monstrosity.
Oh,
just
it was a
sitting on
big
that.
thing, man. Like you just like, but I remember
Yeah.
just sitting there, just going. Me and my brother, like the games we'd always play were like Mortal Kombat 3. We play Echo the Dolphin a lot.
Yes, that was
Major
hard.
Oh, yeah.
was it? Because Major Chaos was it? Where basically you had two sort of kind of sets of army men. You ran around, you shot each other.
Yeah.
A thing called Eternal Champions, I think, was like a fighting game we used to play loads. What's it called? Cyborg Justice, a film called not a game called Cyborg Justice, which was a fighting game. Yeah, I'm just like we'd have little tournaments with each other and stuff, and we'd tally up how many times we'd won and stuff. And I was always better at one type of game, and my brother was always better at another. And yeah, all good.
Dear.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oops.
Are you sure
we
you
still
don't want
haven't
to talk
talked
about
about
your
your books?
you don't want to talk about your books before we go? 'Cause I'm going to end this soon because it's getting late. But
It is getting
I
late. I
think
just
what we
realised.
should do. I think what we should do is just invite Laura on again, so then we can talk about all your books. And
yeah. Is there anything you want to
Come back
push
anytime.
before we go? Is there anything you want to push or talk about? No, just before
You have a book. You have a novella
Just-
coming
don't
out, don't
just
you?
say,
I have
don't
a
just
novella
say
that's-
I write books.
Sorry.
I do write books. That is a thing that I do. No, I've got a
That's
novella
it.
out that's recently just come out called On the Shoulders of Otava, and it's based on. It's a kind of a horror novella that's based on Finnish folklore and mythology,
Okay.
and it's set during the 1918 Finnish Civil War.
Oh.
And it focuses. I don't know. I probably don't know an awful lot about it because I didn't know an awful lot about it until I researched it. But basically, during the 1918 Finnish Civil War, it was the White Guard were the nationalists, the Finnish nationalists, fighting the Red Guard, who were the kind of the Russian sympathizers.
All right, so
with the
this was in and
Bolsheviks.
around the Russian Revolution then?
Yeah, it was just after the October Revolution that this took place, and that was kind of sparked it. So the Red Army, the communists, the Bolsheviks, they had a unit or several units of female soldiers. They had around 2,000 female soldiers, Red women, or the Red Guard. And this novella focuses on a unit of female Red Guard soldiers. I did a lot of research for it. It was fascinating, and I would have loved to have put even more of the stuff I learned into this book, but a novella can only be so long. So it's part historical novel, it's part exploration of Finnish folklore and Finnish legend, and it's a part horror novel as well. It's about spooky bear myths in the snowy forest. So
Who's it released through?
it's released by PS Publishing.
Okay.
And you can get it on the website. I have actually this is completely coincidental. I didn't have this here just as a thing, but I have a shiny shiny version of it with a
Nice.
scary bear on the front. So yeah, it's from PS Publishing, and it's out now.
Right, okay, I'm going to go to PS Publishing and order a copy.
Well, there you
I
go.
hope you
There you go.
If you remember to give the links to Matt, then I'm sure he'll put them in the description.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah. If you send me the links, I will very much do that for you.
I'll be sure to. Thank you.
Cool. Right, okay. We'll leave it there. Again, you're more than welcome to come back on and actually talk about writing and stuff. I think you're the only writer we've had on where we have, generally it's we talk about the writing and then we go on about the nerdy stuff afterwards. But we've literally hit hard with wrestling, anime, TV
I've got
programs.
weird stuff to talk about. It's totally fine. I had a good time.
D&D.
Good, I'm glad you enjoyed it.
I normally do a hardcore bit of writing query because I'd write on the side, but
Oh.
I just totally got left out to one side. Distracted.
Too many exciting things to talk about.
Yeah, well, that's it, isn't it? When you're a nerd, everything's exciting, So.
That's true.
Right, okay, so for me, I've been Matt Geary. With me tonight has been Mark County,
See you all later.
Peter Ray Allison,
Good night, everyone, and take care of each other.
Jonjo Cosgrove,
Take care, all. See you soon.
and Laura. All right, I'm gonna get your second name wrong right now.
You
Laura
can do it.
Mauro.
That is close enough.
Ah,
Like marrying
Oh.
an Italian.
yeah. Good night, everybody. Thanks for listening.
night.
See you later.
Good night.
Bye bye.